asociaciones Sur-Sur y a la voz del Sur global. No quiero terminar mi participación sin expresar mi particular agradecimiento a mi querido amigo y amigo de la Argentina y al presidente de la República Federativa de Brasil, Ignacio Lula da Silva, por haber llevado a ese foro problemas que mi patria afronta y por haber acompañado con tanta firmeza mi deseo expresado al presidente Xi Jinping en 2022 de sumarnos a esa alianza de la que ya nos sentimos miembros. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. It's now my honor to call upon Her Excellency Ms. Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of the People's Republic of Bangladesh.
Very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Mr. Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I thank President Mr. Ramaphosa for his invitation. I feel a personal attachment to South Africa, having enjoyed the affection and blessings of President Mandela. I recall his joining our celebration for the 25th anniversary of Bangladesh's independence in 1997. Like him, our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, lived a life of sacrifice for his nation. He has spent more than 13 years in prison to secure our people's right of self-determination. In 1974, at the UN General Assembly, he condemned apartheid as a crime against humanity and called for decolonizing Zimbabwe, Namibia, and Palestine. Following his legacy, we have come here to BRICS outreach to reaffirm our solidarity with Global South. We also maintain a spirit of friendship to all nations of the world with malice towards none. The lesson we take from the global health, cost of living, and climate crisis is that none of us is secure until everyone is. Mr. Chair, Bangladesh is now the world's 35th largest economy with a strong commitment to sustainable development. We have cut poverty from 41.5% in 2006 to 18.7% in 2022. We have reduced extreme poverty from 25.1% to 5.6% in the same period. We have provided electricity to all households. We are about to eliminate the curse of homelessness under my free social housing project, Ashrayam. Around 108% of our population has access to cellular mobile connections, higher than the global average. In the last fiscal year, the mobile financial systems recorded transactions with US $111.27 billion. This has hugely benefited our rural women, among others. We now have more girls than boys in our primary and secondary schools. Our average life expectancy is almost 73 years. Last week, we introduced the Universal Pension Scheme for 100 million people, with all the transactions taking place online. Government employees are already receiving pension benefits. Our government's next target is to build a smart Bangladesh by 2041. Keeping pace with our economic growth, we see considerable merit in Bangladesh's share in the new development bank. We need predictable financing to support our investments in infrastructures, industries, and clean energy. We must have viable options while waiting for reforms of the international financial architecture. Mr. Chair, Bangladesh has traditionally championed the cause of LDCs, with most of them in Africa. Bangladesh feels proud to engage in UN peacekeeping and peace building in different parts of Africa. With 1.2 million Rohingyas from Myanmar living in Bangladesh, we understand the burden shouldered by refugee hosting nations in Africa. We stand ready to share our expertise with the continent on food production, affordable medicine, financial inclusion, and disaster risk reduction. We can enhance collaboration in combating terrorism, human trafficking, cybercrimes, and money laundering. We should increase air and maritime connectivity to promote mutual trade and investment. Together, we must continue to seek our dues for international financing and technologies. We need to unite around climate justice, migrant rights, digital equality, and debt sustainability. We must preserve the rules-based multilateral trading system with scope for using our own currencies. In Global South, we should say no to artificial choices and divisions being thrown at us. We must reject attempts to weaponize universal norms and values. We need to stop the cycle of sanction and counter-sanctions. We must speak out against all threats, provocations, and commission of war. I keep calling for channeling resources from dangerous arms race to global public goods. We need to take responsibility for peace, justice, and stability around the world. Mr. Chair, we need BRICS as a lighthouse in a multipolar world. We hope to see BRICS emerge as an inclusive platform responding to our times. We must prove to our children and youth that our nations may suffer but will never be defeated. I conclude with the parting words of our father of the nation, my father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, at UNGA, and I quote, "For us in the emerging world, we must have faith in ourselves and in our capacity to fulfill our destiny and to build for ourselves a better future," unquote. The message he conveyed 50 years ago still rings true. I thank you all. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. I now call upon Mr. Luis Alberto Catacora, the President of the plurinational state of Bolivia.
Muchas gracias, Presidente.
Thank you very
Primero,
much, Mr. President.
quiero agradecerle
First of all,
por la
I
invitación
would like
a
to
este foro.
thank you for this invitation to
Expreso
this
un
platform.
saludo
I
a todos
express
los
my greetings to all the
presidentes,
presidents,
dignatarios de
dignitaries,
Estado y personalidades que
and
están acá
different
presentes.
personalities who are present today.
Hoy aquí, en el continente
Today,
africano,
here on the African continent,
los bolivianos nos sentimos
the
como en
people
casa,
of Bolivia feel
entre
at home.
hermanos.
We feel among brothers.
Pues compartimos
Because
con los
we
países
share
africanos
with the African
una misma
countries
historia
a
de
common
luchas
history
populares
of popular
contra el
struggle
colonialismo,
against
la
colonialism,
servidumbre y la
servitude,
explotación de
and the
nuestros
exploitation
pueblos
of our
y nuestros
peoples
recursos
and our
naturales.
natural resources.
Los movimientos de liberación lucharon durante los primeros años del siglo XIX hasta entrado el siglo XX para culminar con nuestras respectivas independencias nacionales. Tenemos más de un siglo de incansables batallas por fortalecer nuestros estados nacionales. Y hoy somos pueblos heroicos que seguimos luchando no solo por nuestra independencia política, sino también buscamos nuestra independencia económica, científica y cultural, acorde a la nueva realidad mundial. Tampoco olvidar que como parte del nefasto proceso de colonización europea en América, miles de africanos fueron traídos por la fuerza para trabajar como esclavos en las plantaciones, minas o en las haciendas, generalmente en condiciones infrahumanas. La sangre africana corre por nuestras venas nuestroamericanas. La sangre africana también abonó nuestras luchas libertarias. En memoria de todos aquellos que dieron su vida por la libertad de la que hoy gozan nuestros pueblos, quiero rendir homenaje a dos insignes patriotas africanos y mediante ellos a todos los pueblos de este continente, a Nelson Mandela, padre de la independencia de Sudáfrica, y a Patrice Lumumba, héroe nacional y primer ministro de la República Democrática del Congo, derrocado y asesinado por la infamia de los intereses imperialistas y colonialistas en septiembre de 1960. El inmenso valor y convicción anticolonialista de todos nuestros héroes jamás podrán ser borrados de la memoria colectiva y se convierte hoy en la base moral de la resistencia de nuestros pueblos al neocolonialismo, que pretende destrozar las crecientes lazos de cooperación entre nuestros continentes y regiones que se acercan cada vez más para afrontar a los retos y desafíos de un mundo multipolar en configuración. Los problemas del sur global no lo va a resolver el norte hegemónico. Un norte acostumbrado a siglos de dominación de nuestros estados nacionales, expoliación de nuestros recursos naturales y explotación de nuestros compatriotas. Los problemas del sur global tenemos que encararlos y resolverlos nosotros mismos, juntos, con solidaridad y cooperación auténtica para el vivir bien de nuestros pueblos. Por eso, la emergencia y expansión del grupo de los BRICS es un nuevo hito en la historia humana, porque permite a las naciones acceder a mercados internacionales sin la necesidad de tener que comprometer su dignidad y sin condicionamientos políticos, sin sanciones ni intimidaciones militaristas. Bolivia comparte con los 5 países que integran los BRICS una visión común respecto a un orden internacional fundado en la igualdad, la complementariedad, la solidaridad, la inclusión, el consenso, la cooperación beneficiosa mutuamente, el respeto a la soberanía y a la autodeterminación de los pueblos en el marco del multilateralismo horizontal, buscando que la presencia y los intereses de las economías emergentes jueguen un rol decisivo en el escenario internacional. Los BRICS tienen cada vez una mayor gravitación económica en un mundo en pleno cambio hacia la multipolaridad. Una preponderancia basada en una economía real con fundamentos sólidos, asentados en la producción y la industrialización con respecto a la naturaleza y a la madre tierra. Bolivia quiere formar parte de estos cambios. Bolivia tiene su propio modelo económico que le ha permitido generar excedentes que son redistribuidos a la población, habiendo logrado disminuir los índices de pobreza y desigualdad entre ricos y pobres. La diversificación de la economía, la industrialización con sustitución de importaciones, la producción y exportación de alimentos y productos industrializados, la consolidación de una economía en base ancha y la redistribución social del excedente económico son los objetivos del modelo económico, social, comunitario, productivo de Bolivia, que nos permite avanzar hacia una industrialización acelerada y hacia un sistema de comercio multilateral abierto, complementario, transparente, inclusivo y no discriminatorio. Aunque Bolivia es un país de ingresos medios y una economía en desarrollo, ha conseguido mantener un constante crecimiento y una estabilidad económica con justicia social significativa en nuestra región. Creemos firmemente que la incorporación de Bolivia a los BRICS sería mutuamente beneficiosa por la concurrencia en áreas estratégicas como la energía, los recursos naturales, la agricultura, la producción de alimentos para la exportación, la ciencia y la tecnología, así como nuevos enfoques de cooperación, financiamiento e inversiones estratégicas en infraestructuras críticas para la integración, dada la privilegiada posición geográfica que tiene Bolivia. Bolivia, con las mayores reservas de litio del mundo, confía en encontrar socios estratégicos con el objeto de obtener tecnología y financiamiento necesarios para la industrialización soberana del litio, así como para garantizar mercados para los productos bolivianos con valor agregado. No vamos a permitir que se repita la triste historia boliviana con la plata y el estaño, imborrables cicatrices de pobreza de nuestros mineros y de todo el pueblo. El litio boliviano no puede correr la misma suerte que la plata explotada en la colonia, la goma o el estaño que se expolió de nuestro territorio como materia prima y que nos dejó en la pobreza, igual que pasó con el uranio de Níger, con el cobalto de la hermana República del Congo y con otros tantos otros recursos naturales expoliados durante siglos de los países africanos y nuestroamericanos. El aseguramiento de cadenas de suministros de recursos energéticos y minerales y metales críticos no pueden continuar siendo un pretexto para el intervencionismo y la expansión colonial. Deploramos cualquier intervención militar extranjera en África, en nuestra América y en cualquier parte del mundo, y apelamos al respeto a la soberanía de los estados, a la autodeterminación y a las instituciones de integración regional y continental. Cualquier conflicto tiene que resolverse respetando los principios de no injerencia, diálogo y entendimiento mutuo establecidos en la Carta de las Naciones Unidas. Si bien la herencia colonial y racista dejó terribles secuelas en nuestros países, también está históricamente comprobado que nuestros pueblos han sabido salir adelante y prosperar, impulsados por la convicción y los sueños de nuestras gestas libertarias. Por eso, nuestra revolución democrática y cultural dignifica a todas las bolivianas y bolivianos, rechazando toda forma de imperialismo y explotación neocolonial. En poco tiempo más, en 2025, Bolivia celebrará sus 200 años de independencia, más comprometida que nunca con la integración sudamericana, de Caribe y del sur global. Quiero aprovechar esta ocasión para invitar a todos los países de BRICS, así como a todos los países de América Latina, África y del mundo, a que nos acompañen a celebrar el bicentenario de Bolivia, en el camino a su segunda y definitiva independencia, con plena soberanía económica y política. Están ustedes invitados a compartir los 200 años de libertad del pueblo boliviano. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. We move on, and I'd like to call upon His Excellency, President Faustin Touadera, the President of the Central African Republic, to take the floor.
Merci. Thank you, Excellency.
Cyril Ramaphosa,
President Cyril
de la République d'Afrique du Sud,
President of the Republic of South Africa, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Head of State and of Government, Mr. the General Secretary of the United Nations, Madame Dilma Rousseff, the President of the New Development Bank of BRICS, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As I'm taking the floor in the name of the Central Republic of Africa on this 15th BRICS Summit, I would like to express our gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, to the government and the people of South Africa for the warm welcome that was reserved since we arrived, and also all the excellent arrangements that was made for the success of this meetings. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the Africa BRICS Summit is taking place when African countries are facing many challenges, where international organizations are not able to bring peace, security, and sustainable development. So it constitutes a new point of departure for the emergence of a new international order, which is more equitable, inclusive, peaceful, and then based on mutual respect. A partnership, a win-win partnership, the respect of legality and then sovereignty of a country. So we need to respect sovereignty of people and then nations on their natural wealth, which must be done in the interest of national development and the well-being of the population of that given country. In fact, the partnership for a growth that will be accelerated mutually, and then sustainable development in inclusive multilateralism based on the 5 emerging economies in the country, which is a BRICS, which constitutes for us an ideal solutions to inequalities, world inequalities, and then to those who have a spirit of neo-colonialist, geostrategic and geopolitics of Western powers who are maintaining African countries in poverty, insecurity, and dependence. Excellency and ladies and gentlemen, the Central Republic of Africa is ready to integrate BRICS and then build together a better world where nobody will be left behind. In fact, since the return of the constitutional order in 2016, the Central Republic of Africa took some measures to catch up with the lost time and to respond to peace imperatives. So my country is giving itself a new legislative framework by adopting laws that are relative to cryptocurrency and then natural resources and the land, and a new constitution that was adopted by 95% of the Central African Republic people, with a rate that has never been realized in the country. Today, the Central African Republic is one of the favorable space for companies in African continent, a country where individuals, nationals and foreign can set up their own companies and then receive their e-visas directly online. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's opportune for me to remind that the Central African Republic possesses enormous potentials in natural resources. Agroecologic conditions are favorable. We've got arable land of 15 million hectares. We are also having a forest that is estimated at 28,000 million hectares. So it's carbon. So it's also an habitat of several species in the forest. regardless of these potentials, the participation of my country to the world trade is very low. It's limiting itself to the export of some raw material, namely cotton, coffee, timber, and then gold. By reaffirming its support to the BRICS initiative and its willingness to join, so we're asking the BRICS to build a win-win partnership in view for the exploitation of immense resources at the national and in the well-being of its population. And then we're also urging BRICS to continue to support its requests so that they can raise the embargo on weapons and then diamonds, and also by legitimating the terrorist groups. With regards to our common goal to put in place a new global order, which is inclusive, I believe that the results of our meetings will be effective towards a real partnership for mutual recognition and then development for everyone, and then inclusive development between Africa and the BRICS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. I now call upon His Excellency President Denis Sassou Nguesso, the President of the Republic of the Congo.
Monsieur Cyril Ramaphosa,
Excellency Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the South Africa, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, Head of State and Government, Mr. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for the honor that has been given to us to take part in this summit, and then the warm welcome that was reserved to myself and my delegation. Allow me to translate my gratitude to my brother Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the Republic of South Africa, as well as to the South African people. So it's the opportunities also for me to present my sincere thanks to the head of state for BRICS to have invited me in this summit, which is of a high level, and then I hope that the conclusions will be relevant, capable to strengthen our efforts and then to deal with challenges that is being a stop for the development in Africa. I've said that many times, but the multipolar world that we call has now arrived. So we are very happy for that. Mr. the Head of State and then the government and member of BRICS, your fight, your struggle for an international order, equitable and just, is also our fight. The Africa in general, the Congo, my country in particular, subscribe to your objectives of a multilateral partnership that is inclusive and representing the world as it is today. With you, so we are sharing the idea that international cooperation needs to be established on the basis of respect and then mutual benefit. So it's that spirit that we find in our dialogue with you. So I really wanted to thank you for that. So we are very sure that the partnership between BRICS and Africa would be beneficial in the going toward development. So it would be a real mutual construction that will profit everyone. But the condition for success for this partner in the service of development is to deal with real issues of the continent. With that spirit, our conviction is that we need, before everything else, to underline, to put an interest on a basic infrastructure aiming to build production capacity and then the physical integration of our territories. Otherwise, how are we going to take advantage of the implementation of the free trade area, the African free trade area, without basic infrastructure, transport, telecommunication, energy? About 600 million people do not have access to electricity. How are we planning how can we plan the industrialization of the continent? So these questions are very essential. So to guarantee a sustainable growth. So, adding to that, to concerns that have been raised, the access to drinking water, sanitation, so the building capacity of a human capacity, the quality of life, these are priority for us. So the list is not exhaustive. First to this, so the key to progress in our continent is, without any doubt, it's the facilitation for the access of our different countries to finance. So I'm expressing my wish. The partnership between BRICS-Africa and the BRICS, it must be a supported access to facilitate fund for development. So we are hoping that this will be available, especially through the new development bank that will contribute actively to the finance solidarity toward Africa, where the necessity to make our country eligible.
that our country is a good candidate to be a member state of this expanded BRICS group because of its conviction and the BRICS capacity of creating a more just and fair global system with a more equitable international order in relation to relations between the countries. The Republic of Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, believes that South Africa has overcome the times of theoretical dogmatism to travel towards realities that does indeed impose effective change in the emerging nations of the global south. This struggle can only bring to us this effective victory with monetary and economic power and with the will and determination from the BRICS being guided to the accelerated economic growth, sustainable development, and also inclusive multilateralism amongst its member states, fighting against the injustice of the current political and economic system, which continues to make the African people to suffer from the countries that hold the reins of the world economic and its institutions for keeping their economic power status quo over the emerging nations. Mr. President, in order to be able to face this situation, our country believes that the reinforced BRICS, bolstered with a more universal structure, may indeed create a convertible currency even stronger, supported by the resources of its member states, with the aim of doing away with the current system and offering a more just financial system, allowing its members to have a more equal share as far as having benefits within the international financial arena. In conclusion, I'd like to say that all countries in the world, be them big or small, and from all different locations, that they enjoy the critical rights to develop their potential of having access to prosperity-related opportunities as well as peace, and also of the benefits from the global economic processes. The BRICS need to be the engine of this inclusive and sustainable development drive, offering fruitful results. And it is very important to have been at the 15th BRICS Summit that has given us such important results.
President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, and President pro tempore of the BRICS. Dear President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China, dear President and brother and colleague Lula da Silva, President of the Federal Republic of Brazil, esteemed Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, respected President Vladimir Putin. I would like to express enthusiastic greetings on the occasion of this historic 15th Summit of the Emerging Economies comprised by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which has been laying very strong foundations for the creation of a truly free, inclusive, just, and supportive new global system. This new system aims to restore the principles of international law, which have been threatened by the old hegemonic imperial system. Venezuela sincerely appreciates the gracious invitation extended by the Republic of South Africa in its capacity of President pro tempore of the BRICS to participate in this historic summit and to contribute to the BRICS plus outreach people. I sincerely extend the support of the Venezuelan people to the BRICS countries. We are working on supporting the diversity of our civilization. In this regard, it is important to recall the words of the great Nelson Mandela, spoken on May 24, 1994, during his inaugural address. This was just days after assuming the presidency of the new post-apartheid South Africa. He called for the establishment of a new world order of cooperation, justice, prosperity, and peace, mutually beneficial for us and for the nations of the world, as Mandela affirmed. As we gather here with you, Venezuela, participating in this historic BRICS summit, I think of our commander, Hugo Chavez, who, along with other world leaders, raised their voices for decades in the pursuit of a new international order that is more sustainable in a political, cultural, and economical way. In this context, we recall the also historic BRICS UNASUR summit on July 15, 2024 in Brazil. We were there. This country that year presided over this powerful bloc of emerging economies, and they facilitated this encounter to design a new geopolitical structure, creating a new global map for political, financial, economic, and energy cooperation. Today, we are convinced that this new world order is a reality, and the BRICS are playing a fundamental role in the geopolitical dynamics that have fostered trust among the peoples and governments of Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia, with the development model and values of mutual respect. The BRICS countries represent 31.7% of the global GDP, 30% of the territory, 43% of the population, and 18% of the international trade. These nations control 8.7% of the world's oil reserves, 25.2% of gas reserves, and contribute 40% of global energy, 42% of the renewable energy usage, and 37% of energy consumption. Without a doubt, unity is strength, and this collective strength drives a new paradigm of global relations and propels a new world geopolitics in the 21st century. Esteemed Presidents, Prime Ministers, Excellencies, Venezuela joins the aspirations of countries seeking to join the BRICS. We officially expressed this in a letter in 2015, and we recently reaffirmed it. We are willing to contribute to this global integrated model with the richest oil reserves, certified oil reserves. They are in our country. Furthermore, our nation possesses abundant mineral resources, accounting for over 20% of global reserves of iron, copper, and gold, as well as deposits of silver, bauxite, coltan, nickel, rhodium, titanium, among others. Additionally, we have a privileged geographical position in northern South America. Out of the 23 aspirants in the potential BRICS expansion process, 7 of us are members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, which supplies a crucial portion of the global market, and collectively we hold 77% of the world's oil reserves. The inclusion of these OPEC nations in the BRICS group would ensure control of over 83% of the proven global oil reserves, not to mention the proven reserves of non-OPEC and OPEC plus countries. Concerning global gas reserves, out of the 23 BRICS aspirants, 7 are part of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. This includes Russia. This forum manages 72% of the world's gas reserves and supplies 44% of the global markets. Venezuela's accumulated experience in the face of illegal imposition of criminal sanctions and unilateral coercive measures is another vital aspect that we are prepared to share with the BRICS group and its friends. The reality is that in recent years, we have seen the clear evidence of the need to progress on the process of the global economic de-dollarization, considering the rampant and indiscriminate use of the US dollar as a mechanism of economic warfare against the free peoples of the world. Recent studies have shown that at least 30 nations, representing 28% of the global population, which is around 2,178 billion human beings, are affected by imperialist sanctions and other extortionary measures and economic warfare. The damage to our economies and development models is undeniable. The implementation of these measures negatively impacts the enjoyment of human rights as recognized by the UN Human Rights Council in March 2023. Colleagues, presidents, prime ministers, from Venezuela, we come together to shape a new financial architecture that allows for transactions with innovative physical and digital means and a wide range of national currencies. This would provide access to new forms of financing that contribute to the recovery and growth of our economies. In Venezuela's case, the growth projection of over 5% in 2023 is the highest in the region, according to the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. It is our desire, Mr. President, to join the BRICS Think Tanks Council to contribute our modest experience to counteract the harmful effects of Western sanctions on the world economies, as well as to dismantle the financial and commercial domination system. Furthermore, we undertake the responsibility of promoting political and economic relations between the BRICS architecture and the key mechanisms of consultation and cooperation in Latin America and the Caribbean. Among these, I am talking about the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, the People's Trade Treaty, this is ALBA TCP, and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, aiming to advance the formation of regional blocs, as was envisaged in the historic Summit 2014 between BRICS and UNASUR. The consolidation of these ambitious alliances requires a high level of people's awareness about realities, strengths, and capacities for united progress. To that end, we propose strengthening the communicational alliance by revitalizing cooperation between the BRICS and Telesur and the Latin American Caribbean Multimedia and Multistate Platform. Colleagues, Excellencies, since its inception, BRICS has been conceived with an inclusive and complementary vision, with the multilateral system at its core, including the World Trade Organization and its reform. It supports the growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises, integrating them into the global value chains, and expanding cooperations in the fields of digital economy and green development, among other actions. Therefore, the call to expand its membership represents hope for those of us with the noble and modest aspiration to contribute from various perspectives to becoming part of a new development model. This model has been growing under the leadership of BRICS and undoubtedly finds a momentous impetus toward the future in this grand gathering in Johannesburg. 200 years ago, during the struggle of our independence, the independence of the Americans, actually, our liberator, Simón Bolívar, envisioned the construction of what we could call now a multipolar and pluricentric world. As he said, to achieve the long-awaited universal balance. I sincerely believe that with the emergence of BRICS, we are closer than ever to realizing the dream of Simón Bolívar. This is the dream of the greater homeland, the dream of a human homeland, a global homeland. This is why, President Ramaphosa, I reaffirm our wholehearted willingness, support, gratitude for being invited to this historic summit. Venezuela takes a step forward with BRICS towards a world of peace, cooperation, the world of the 21st century. We say it from the heart. Long live the peoples of the Global South. Thank you very much.
In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. صدای رئیس رو نمیشنوم. نه فلور رو ندارم. و the Honorable President of the South Africa, at the outset, I deem it necessary to thank you and the government and the people of South Africa for inviting me and for the warm reception that has been accorded to me and my delegation. I need to thank you and also the presidents of Russia, China, and Brazil, and Honorable Prime Minister of India for providing this opportunity. My gratitude to you, and express my pleasure and delight for being amongst my colleagues from the African continent and the friendly countries of BRICS. Without any doubt, the decision made by the members of BRICS for expanding this group was a commendable move that paves the ground for the global expansion within the framework of justice, and the benefits of Iran's membership to BRICS is going to make history and open a new chapter and a stronger step towards fairness, ethics, and sustainable and lasting peace on the international stage. And Mr. Chair, this is the third time that South Africa assumes the chairmanship of BRICS. And in each and every one of these times, the good efforts and determination of South Africa for bring about more cooperation, not just in the BRICS, but also in the African continent, is praiseworthy. And the African continent is one of the main capitals of the global South. And there is this culture diversity, ethnic diversity, richness, and also the language, and also natural attractions and the rich mineral resources. These have all made this continent distinct from others. Fortunately, the political and economic weight of the African continent is increasing on a daily basis. And the most important portion of the future of the world, the developing world within this geography, is happening. Mr. Mandela, the late Mr. Mandela, and the African heroes who stood against colonialism, I should salute them and remember their memory kindly. The Islamic Republic of Iran, since a long time ago, has been a friend and an ally of Africa, and is strengthening economic interactions and cooperation has been very high on our agenda. And bilaterally and multilaterally, we have had different plans to cooperate with different countries of African continent. Honorable audience, dear participants, hegemony, injustice, the discriminations, and the ethical crisis have put the world in a complicated and difficult position. The emergence of problems like hunger, the global changes, and no access to energy and medicine and medical equipment, coupled with cyber insecurity and cultural threats and to the values and identities, are just some of these challenges faced by the world, and they require more convergence and a global drive to deepen the dialogue of justice and to have a fair order that is coming from the collective interests of the people of the world. BRICS is a symbol of such a change and transformation into international equations that can and is capable enough to contribute positively to the resolution of the global problems, especially considering the fact that it has its effectiveness and the trust in the world is increasing. The expansion of the BRICS to other parts of the developing and the global south is making this vision more consistent and more globalized. The Islamic Republic of Iran believes that the political, economic, has cooperation, significant one with each and every 5 main members of BRICS. And in the current era, we are clearly seeing a rise and a deepening of such cooperation. And the different strategic cooperation between Iran and the members of BRICS, especially when it comes to transit, energy, and trade, it is and that is on the agenda of BRICS. Support this approach adopted by Iran. And also lasting benefit. It has lasting benefits for our people and for the world. The Islamic Republic of Iran very resolutely supports the successful endeavors of BRICS in line with dollarization from the trade and economic interactions between the members, and also making use of the local and national currencies, and also reinforcing the mechanisms for payments and also settlements. The Islamic Republic of Iran has exemplary and unique capacities and is ready to put them at your disposal at the 3 main activities of the BRICS, that is politics, security, and economy, and also the social ones and the financial ones, and to have maximum interaction and to foster multilateral cooperation, especially with the independent developing countries. It is in the center of Iran's foreign policy, and in this line, and because of Iran's very special geopolitical and also location of geography, and having a lot of energy resources and a lot of engineering and technological and scientific capabilities, like industrial and nanotechnology and medical advancements that we have achieved, we announce our readiness to have any kind of cooperation, to have joint investments and other types of cooperation with other countries. Honorable participants, in conclusion, I would like to make mention that one of the existing challenges in the global south is the continuation of the racist policies and the insecurities emanating from the occupation and operations and the hegemony and terrorism, state terrorism, especially by the Zionist regime. That has not only deprived the people of Palestine from the right to their determination, but also the right to development. Mr. Chair, Excellency, once again, I deem it necessary to thank you and the people of the friendly and brotherly country of South Africa for hosting this very important gathering, and I would like to thank you for your attention. That's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, my dear brother and good neighbor, Your Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, and the chairperson of the BRICS nations, Your Excellencies, presidents and heads of government of BRICS nations, Your Excellencies, presidents and ministers of invited states, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As I begin my remarks as an invited state to this outreach BRICS summit, I wish on behalf of the Republic of Mozambique and on my own behalf, wish to thank for the gracious invitation extended to me by President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa. This participation provides me with an opportunity to participate in the BRICS Plus and BRICS Outreach Dialogue, a forum which is an important mechanism to strengthen international cooperation and promote acceleration of economic development of emerging and developing countries. Mr. President, under the current dynamics, multilateral cooperation for development is a major challenge in the sphere of relations between states in the prospect of the inclusivity, the inclusion of the global south in multilateral systems as a way of promoting economic growth. Allow me to highlight a few aspects that in our view are critical. First, a relevant aspect which arises from economic cooperation in the period post-COVID-19, despite there being indication of a trajectory of most of the countries of growth, there are still negative factors that hamper the speed of development, namely the persistence of inflation almost all over the world and the high interest rate of lending countries, which has brought up, has increased the price of loans, and this increases debts and also the disruption of external reserves and depreciation of exchange rates. Secondly, a critical aspect which is related to energy transition and climate change. As a matter of fact, our continent has an insignificant contribution in carbon emissions, and it is inhabited by millions of people who have no access to power. At the same time, our countries are victims of tropical cyclones and droughts, which are cyclical, employment for youth and the quality of life for people, and also displacement of a million of people within the continent and to Europe. Therefore, it is important that we adopt a fair energy transition that will unlock the potential of African countries with energy resources for their development, which plays a key role in the global energy security for the next decades. Third, industrialization through the consolidation of regional value chains of different commodities or products, having as a basis the building of infrastructures in the African continent to leverage the African Free Trade Area. And there are strategic minerals in our countries which would combine resources from different countries for gains, for economies of scale and access to energy in feasible conditions, where Mozambique could play an important role due to its potential of the energy matrix and due to its geographic location. Mr. Presidents and heads of state of BRICS nations, the initiative of cooperation of BRICS with non-BRIC members like Mozambique, coupled with its expansion, is one of the initiatives of the Africans, which is reflected on the Agenda 2063 for the development of Africa, which is in line with sub-regional agendas. And this development will only be possible with peace and stability. And fight on terrorism and maritime piracy on the continent and on the world, based on multilateral fora with the active participation of least developed countries in line with the provisions of the international law, without the influence of geopolitical rivalries. Last, I would like to commend the initiative of BRICS regarding the new development bank, which should reduce the deficit of infrastructures on the African continent. We commend the fact that you prioritize the component of financing of vital socioeconomic infrastructures. Therefore, there is a need for the construction of roads and bridges, schools and hospitals, dams, and other systems for retention and water management. From these important infrastructures for leveraging economic progress, this can bring about welfare for the Mozambican. Mr. President, Your Excellency, as we associate to this dialogue, Mozambique does it with the conviction that the BRICS can constitute an important platform to share interests and efforts through concrete and tangible actions, which will provide mutual benefits in an environment of complementarity and solidarity that characterize the global South on different issues of important issues of our states. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your attention.
Your Excellency, Mr. Ramaphosa, President Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa and the current chair of BRICS, Excellencies and honored presidents of BRICS member states, distinguished heads of delegations representing the BRICS group, colleagues, Your Excellency, and the guests of Africa, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'm pleased to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to South Africa, the country of Nelson Mandela, government and people. With his presidency of His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, for the gracious invitation that we have received in the name of the BRICS group. And also, I wish to thank you for the warm reception and excellent arrangements that have been made for this important event to make this meeting a success. Africa is a continent that has immense potential, vibrant youth, and abundant resources. However, it has suffered and continues to suffer from marginalization, exploitation, and debt that has impoverished many of its countries, hindering their economic and social growth. The Sahrawi Republic believes that peace and stability in our continent depend on the responsibility of the international community, particularly the members of the Security Council, in enforcing respect for legitimacy regardless of double standards. The Sahrawi Republic addresses you with the conviction that in the 21st century, the peace-loving nations must uphold international law and fight against glaring injustice and continuous violation of its natural resources of the Sahrawi Republic continue to be exploited by international parties seeking to impose unilateral and oppressive choices, even within the framework of the United Nations Security Council, thus preventing the Sahrawi people from realizing their full sovereignty over their national territory. Therefore, Your Excellencies, honorable guests, the Sahrawi Republic firmly believes that a multilateral global system, in order to meet the aspirations of humanity, must be built upon justice and respect for international law. It is guaranteed, or this, it must be guaranteed that the right of people to self-determination, independence, decolonization, and its ramifications as key pillars. This system should ensure the creation of a new dynamic that eradicates unjust political, social, and economic disparities between different regions of the world, ultimately serving the collective interest of humanity. This distinction that will set the BRICS group apart. Wishing you all success and prosperity. Thank you, and may peace be with you.
Thank you very much, President Cyril Ramaphosa, dear colleagues of member states of BRICS, and then invited nations, Mr. the General Secretary of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, President Cyril Ramaphosa, for your kind invitation and then the generous hospitality that we received during this 15th BRICS Summit. I would like, before I start, to extend my gratitude, my warm gratitude, and congratulations to the member state that has just joined BRICS as a full member, namely Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, and then the Islamic Republic of Iran. That is an indication that BRICS is working in the direction of history. So we need to continue with this journey to expand more. So Senegal is saluting the spirit because we would like a new world order that will be more inclusive, more just, and then equitable. In a global context of world crisis aggravated with the impact of a high-intensity conflict. So I would like to raise 4 priorities that I think are more crucial. First of all, it's very important for us to work on a peaceful world environment in order to attenuate the effect of a crisis and then to avoid an escalation that can lead the humanity to a major crisis. Secondly, Senegal wish that BRICS support fully advocacy of countries from the south for the implementation of a financial commitment agreed in regard to the Paris Agreement in relation to climate and also for the energy transition by taking into account responsibility, each one a responsibility, and also this is like it's a delay in our process of industrialization, and also to have universal access to electricity, which more than 600 million Africans who do not have access to electricity. Thirdly, we are calling for the mobilization of a special draw for eligible countries and for the consequent implementation of G20 initiatives post-COVID in the relation for the funding of South economies. So these issues are very pressing because from United Nations estimate 50 countries are behind with payment. So the majority of these countries, the least developed, the most vulnerable countries in climate change. Fourthly, the reform of a political governance, political, economic, and financial governance is an imperative. Everybody knows that the composition of main international institutions, their working method, including their process of making decisions, do not reflect the world realities. So together we should work for the evolution of the United Nations Security Council so that it could become more representative and then represent the interests of all the member states. It's the same for the reform of the valuation systems in practical, mostly the over-evaluation in countries, in developing countries, in particular in countries that lead and then lead to consequences to have a loan cost that are abusive, that goes even up to 80%, 8 times superior to developed countries. So I'd like to finish to thank our friend for BRICS for their support for the candidature of the African Union to G20. With regard to our subscription to G20, so you are contributing to an advent of a more inclusive multilateral. Thank you. Thank you, President, Excellency, and then Head of State for members of the BRIC, and then members from the African Union, Mr. the Secretary General of the United Nations, and then Chair of the Economic Regional Community. Allow me to join my previous predecessors to congratulate the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, his government, and also the people of South Africa for their warm welcome that reserved to us since we arrived in Johannesburg. Allow me also to inform you that given the last-minute commitment, His Excellency Dramat Idriss Déby, the President of a transition, the President of Chad, and the President of Sensat, could not travel to be with us today. Therefore, so he asked me to come and deliver his message, the message that I was going to read for you as it is written. Quote, I would like to express my gratitude to the members of BRICS for this invitation, which is a sign of consideration for us in SESAT, which will be an opportunity for us to deal with challenges of the time that requires special attention. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this summit titled Partnership BRICS and Africa for an accelerated growth, mutual growth, and then inclusivity. Remind me to remind your meeting that the member of Sensat in a world context to deal with challenges of development, to live together in peace and then political stability. I would like to remind that member state of Sensat, there are also other countries that are going through some challenges where the peace and then stability are permanent challenges. So, in fact, the security situation in the Sahel region is for our member states a challenge in the fight against terrorism and then violent extremism, especially for the proliferation of light arms and then weapons and criminality that are organized. From 2011 to 2023, we have all witnessed the degradation in Libya that was caused by international powers, which the consequences are still visible in the Sahel. The security situations in our respective country is progressively degrading, one after the other. The last example is the Sudan, which is living one of the worst period of its history, with the million of people who have been displaced, especially in my country, Chad. Those refugees need urgent help. So we are trying to mobilize. It's now time to ask BRICS and then all of the international communities to be more human by showing solidarity. The member states of Sensat are facing this situation with responsibility and then determination in order to ensure their part in history and then their contribution on human development. Regardless of these challenges, member states of Sensat, especially Chad, a country of economic opportunities that will interest all the BRICS countries. We've got a young population which got a lot of future ahead of them. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, a member state of our regional economic community possess a lot of economical resources, especially in farming, and also on top then under the surface. Our countries could be excellent partners for BRICS enterprises in these areas that I've just cited. Our countries need to be accompanied so that they can exploit their resources. So BRICS, with their actions, could help member states of Sensat to increase their living standards So in terms of mineral exploitation, and also in the area of agriculture, ladies and gentlemen and Excellency, nothing can be achieved in an area where there's uncertain economic growth. Nothing of now concrete can be achieved. For this, we're inviting BRICS member states to ask their commercial banks to come and open offices in our countries to facilitate exchange, facilitate development and infrastructure in the backdrop of a world. It's here the place to salute the birth of the new development bank of BRICS. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, around us, we are observing that the world is changing. So we should not remain a spectator to suffer the old laws that is not favoring us. We need to have the courage to question all of the institutions that came after the World Cup that were created without taking our interest and then the interest of our population. Yes, the world is changing. All those institutions, all those type of development, all those architecture were designed not for us, but for us to be exploited in these conditions. So we need to put an end to this. For instance, for the conference of Bandung, we need to put in place a new solidarity currency or thought. And then, so we are supporting BRICS. So we've got a subscription from African countries like Egypt and Ethiopia. So I declare to you that Chad is ready to adhere to the BRICS. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I now invite His Excellency, Mr. Jean Michael Sama Lukonde, Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo. You may now deliver your input.
Thank you. Thank you, President, Excellency, members of BRICS, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, head of state and government and head of delegations, the Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished guests. It's an honor for me to be invited in the name of His Excellency, Mr. Félix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo, the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, to this 15th Summit of BRICS. So I would like, as everyone who spoke before me, to thank the government of the Republic of South Africa for the warm welcome that was reserved to myself and my delegation. So this summit is in the backdrop of the change of paradigm in the macroeconomic in the world, and also for our respective countries. So we have the responsibility to find appropriate solutions to big challenges that the humanity is facing, such as COVID-19, the climate change, and then also to achieve the SDGs, and also the transition for energy and the biodiversity. Facing all these realities, there's a need to say that a Kati number in Russia in 2019, in Johannesburg in 2023, there are steps that have been realized, namely the one for the existence of the new development bank and then a common fund for exchange of BRICS in order to consolidate the optimism to face the challenges that humanity is faced with. Going in the same direction, we need to bring our contribution in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who's also facing an aggression war in his eastern part. So he's coming to this summit as a solution country, a country that with solution because the Democratic Republic of Congo has a potential what would be very important for the challenges that I've just listed. First of all, taking from its space, it's a big space, 2,345,000 square meter, having 80% of arable land, which is essential for the development for big agricultural projects. My country has got a 50 million of labor, that's of youth in the area of ecosystem. The DRC has a forest of more or less 155 million of hectares, almost 10% of the tropical forest and 60% of the forest of the Congo basin. Again, there's important reserves of natural resources. Natural resources of more than 30 dioxide of carbon, and again with is a forest and wildlife. The Democratic Republic of Congo is ranked the 5th world power in terms of biodiversity. With the response on the energy deficit, my country has got a potential of photovoltaic estimated 70,000 megawatts thanks to this natural exposition in the equator line. Again, an important energy potential of almost 37% of African potential and 6% of the world potential. So it's capable to supply 100 megawatts through its Inga hydroelectric dam. Fourth, on the issue of energy transition, it's worth noting that the Democratic Republic of Congo has got beyond 60% of the world's production in cobalt. Other than lithium, which is known, my country has got other important, crucial minerals that facilitate the manufacturing of batteries, and which is the request is increasing during this time of renewable energy. So taking into account all this, so I'd like to draw everybody's attention beyond of a financial commitment in the program aimed at CITE, specifically to those oriented in our semi-urban centers and in the villages that are being selected for energy transition for the protection of the environment. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, and head of state and of government and head of delegation. The evaluation of potentials that my country is having pushes me to reaffirm its character as a country with solutions, because investments that are being looked for, that are being subscribed in a win-win multilateral cooperation that will allow the world to deal with the challenges that are there. By also reiterating my gratitude, I wish successful to these meetings, and I thank you.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Medbouli of the Arab Republic of Egypt, you may deliver your address.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة الرئيس سيريل رامافوزا
His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, Your Excellency, heads of states of BRICS and friendly countries, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to participate today in this meeting that is being held in the format of BRICS Plus under the theme BRICS in Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development and Multilateralism. And please allow me to start to express my my deep appreciation for the President of South Africa, for the host of this important meeting in these exceptional circumstances that is the world seeing, which sees unprecedented complexities that has impacted on the developing and countries. I would like to welcome the step that is recognized by the BRICS in terms of expanding the BRICS, which I believe that it will make it more effective and more able to express on the international scene. Egypt was keen to enhance the relations with BRICS countries through the participation in various sessions that was held in, under the BRICS Plus format, and it also joined a new development bank in 2021. And we also look forward for Egypt to be an effective member in the bloc, to contribute in its effort to find practical solutions to address the challenges that are faced by our countries, which require intensify the cooperation in the framework of the cooperation, South cooperation. And please allow me to review the Egypt view regarding the areas that could be that needs to be cooperated on. First of all, there is a necessity to intensify the efforts to deal with one of the most dangerous or one of the risks that is a food crisis and its implications through the coordination and intensify the efforts in the frame of multilateral work, also to develop agriculture and food processing and transfer of agriculture technology, in addition to the Egypt readiness to cooperate with the international community to host an international center to supply and store grains in order to contribute in addressing the food crisis. Secondly, reform the international financial structure to make it more fair and responsive to the needs of developing countries, including the mid-income countries, and put mechanisms to alleviate the debt burdens on the developing nations, in addition to the proposals to fix the or reform the international financial system. And we also look forward to your support for the initiative for the debt alliance to create a common framework to cooperate with each other in addition to the importance of common work to encouraging the equal deals and trading in local currencies between the BRICS countries and the developing countries, and also with the African countries. Thirdly, importance to build on the COP27 results that was hosted by Egypt in 2022 and enhance the role of the development banks, multilateral development banks, and financial institutions in funding the climate work, and also to implement the outputs of the Sharm el-Sheikh conference and support the efforts of just transition to renewable energy. And in this context, we appreciate the importance of balancing the needs of our countries from energy and to address the climate change. We must uphold the principles of international law and the UN Charter in terms of the relations of between nations, and to respect the sovereignty of countries and non-interference in its domestic affairs. To confront the common challenges and to rely on the tranquilizing policies to reach peaceful solutions for disputes, particularly because peace and stability is a condition to achieve development. Enhance the cooperation between BRICS and Africa to realize the common interest and to contribute to utilize the untapped potentials. And Egypt will use its opportunity in Nepal to push the averages of the economic integration, and also to push the agenda of 2063 and the objectives of the AFCFTA, with harnessing the Egyptian potentials in terms of the infrastructure and the telecommunication, industrial transformation and food security, with the participation of private sector, and through continuous deliberation with our partners in African countries, in addition to mobilizing the funding through adopting the proposal of NEPAD. And in conclusion, I would like to confirm that Egypt look forward to enhance cooperation and continue the common work with BRICS in different areas on bilateral and a multilateral level. And Egypt welcomes all initiatives and projects that aim to achieve mutual interest. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'd like to now invite His Excellency Mr. Kashim Shettima, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You have the floor, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa and Chair of the 15th BRICS Summit, Your Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government of the Global South, ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Gathered here for the third BRICS-Africa outreach and BRICS Plus dialogue, alongside the 15th BRICS Summit, I convey warm greetings from His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria. Regrettably, due to pressing official matters at home, he couldn't join us today. President Tinubu, on behalf of the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, extends our deepest gratitude to the government and people of the Republic of South Africa for convening the 15th BRICS Summit and bringing together stakeholders from around the world. We are also witnesses to the host's warm hospitality, and my delegation and I are grateful to you for providing a home in Johannesburg for your brothers and sisters from the other edge of the Atlantic. The prevailing theme of this summit, BRICS and Africa, partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism, resonates as a compass guiding the trajectory of the world. It underscores the profound realization that the cornerstone of stability within our intricate multipolar landscape lies in fostering developmental partnerships. Your Excellencies, the disruptive events of the past and present years have rendered emerging economies and many developing countries vulnerable, leaving them in search of beneficial alliances. But I assure you that Nigeria is committed to shaping and fortifying the global framework and governance concerning all major international issues, particularly in the fields of economics, finance, environment, climate change, bridging the digital divide, adopting a comprehensive strategy towards debt alleviation, addressing food and energy insecurities, instituting post-pandemic recovery measures, and fostering financial inclusion within developing countries. Your Excellencies, the international global governance structure to which we currently adhere was established prior to the independence of the African continent and many countries in the global south. So it's indeed imperative to reform global governance to align with the realities of today's world and to acknowledge the necessity for partnerships that ensure shared prosperity, inclusivity, and sustainable development. Your Excellencies, the trajectory of President Tinubu's economic reforms and diplomatic alliances is intended to attract investments and partnerships to Nigeria, while aligning with international and regional cooperation that corresponds with the government's objectives. The new government, which began less than 3 months ago, is examining the variables and evaluating the scope and level of regional and global cooperation to pursue in order to establish Nigeria as a desired friend and partner. The government's final decisions will be determined once our ongoing in-depth discussions within the Economic Advisory Council, the National Assembly, and the Executive Council are concluded and adopted. It is needless to add that Nigeria is Africa's largest economy, and with a population of 220 million people, is undoubtedly the most populous country in Africa. Mr. Chairman, as we approach the target completion date of the Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, the reality of achieving the SDGs remains bleak for many countries, especially developing ones. These nations confront historical developmental vulnerabilities and challenges that are beyond their control. Thus, it is imperative for us to unite within regional groups and forge a novel form of international cooperation. This endeavor aims to foster global economic governance reform while enhancing the representation and voice of emerging market economies or developing countries. Your Excellencies, in a multipolar world, creating mutually beneficial partnerships is challenging, but can be overcome through proper alliances, realignments, and the use of rules-based multilateralism. The key is to establish effective partnerships that will effectively respond to these challenges, based on 1, harnessing the agricultural potential of our nations, 2, harnessing renewable energy to revolutionize Africa, 3, fostering technology, innovation, and job prospects for holistic and equitable progress, 4, collaborative efforts on climate change and nature-centered approaches to development, 5, strengthening vibrant private sector participation among countries of the Global South, and 6, nurturing youth employment and skill building as a deterrent against terrorism, organized crime, and related challenges. 7, proactive crisis management and heightened resilience. And lastly, promoting proactive involvement of business leadership in shaping and improve an ideal landscape for trade and economic exchanges in the Global South. We therefore look forward to working closely with BRICS members and other regional alliances. Our aim is to join forces with nations sharing our vision. Our aim is to foster a partnership aimed at expediting growth and sustainable development across the African continent and the Global South. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I now invite Her Excellency Ms. Jessica Walupo, Vice President of the Republic of Uganda.
Your Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the Republic of South Africa and Chair, I am here to represent His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, and to present to you his message, which reads as follows. Your Excellencies, heads of state and government of BRICS countries and all other invited countries, I have sent Her Excellency, the Vice President Jessica Alupo, Major Retired, to represent us because I had an internal program that had been arranged long before. However, these are our brief comments. The human race has been here for 4.5 million years, ever since man evolved into Homo sapien from lower primates. During all that time, man has faced two major oppressions. These are oppression by nature, e.g., disease, hunger, droughts, floods, earthquakes, etc., and oppression by fellow man, e.g., slavery, imperialism, aggression, feudalism, dictatorship, etc. Man has been responding to both oppressions. He has been responding to oppression by nature through scientific discoveries and better socio-economic organization. Hence, the discovery of fire 1.5 million years ago. The domestication of crops 10,000 years ago. The domestication of animals or livestock 10,000 years ago. The invention of the steam water pump in the year 1698 by Thomas Savery, and the invention of the steam engine in the year 1823 by George Stephenson, etc., etc., are all the phenomena that enabled man to handle better the oppression of man by nature. These are steps that the whole of the human race should welcome and share. Unfortunately, on account of ideological bankruptcy and parasitism, these advances in human knowledge are more often than not used to reinforce the oppression of man by man. That was the situation with the invention of the use of iron tools and weapons, the invention of gunpowder, etc., by some communities that pioneered these advances against those communities that were still lagging behind in respect to those inventions. God equipped man with 3 characteristics that have enabled him to find solutions to the 2 oppressions against man mentioned above: oppression by nature and oppression by fellow man. The 3 characteristics are a superior brain, bipedalism or ability to walk on 2 legs, and a hand that can do work, create tools and use them to do work and create more complicated tools and machines. Therefore, oppression of man by nature, e.g. by droughts, floods, diseases, should not be a problem anymore if it was not for the parasitism which leads some actors not to share knowledge with others or use knowledge to oppress others. This is the distortion that needs to be combated. Your Excellency, by sharing scientific knowledge and management practices, many problems caused by nature to man would be solved if we also banish parasitism. The danger to the environment is, for instance, caused by greed and parasitism of some actors in the world and individual countries. Your Excellencies, the struggle against oppression of man by fellow man has been progressing, but again with unnecessary interruptions caused by imperialism in the last 600 years, feudalism and other forms of dictatorships. In the fight for freedom from oppression of man by fellow men, it is important to remember what the Bible teaches us. In the book of Acts of the Apostles, chapter 17, verse 26, it goes as follows. And he has made from one blood every nation of man to dwell on all the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwellings, so that they should seek the Lord in the hope that they might grope for him and find him. I close quotes. Therefore, Your Excellencies, nations and the boundaries of those nations are the work of God, and nobody should interfere with the work of God. Imperialism is therefore a heathen, unchristian idea. Therefore, in the fight for the emancipation of man from oppression of man by fellow men, we should respect the choices of the different nations and countries. The Bible again states in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16, I open quotes, "Let your light so shine before men that seeing your good deeds, praise our Father in heaven," I close quotes. In other words, influence people by example and not by coercion, manipulation, etc. Your Excellencies, bearing the foregoing in mind, you can see the relevance of the BRICS effort. It is aghast with fresh air that after 600 years of slave trade, colonialism, genocides, imperialism, neocolonialism, aggressions, etc., a group has come up to illuminate a new way for human race, a new way that insists on justice, equality of people, and respecting independence of people and countries. Uganda therefore supports the effort of the BRICS countries, and at the right time, we will want to join. I thank you, Your Excellencies. Signed, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. I now invite His Royal Highness Sheikh Saud bin Saud Mohammed Al-Qasimi, member of the Federal Supreme Court of the United Arab Emirates, ruler of Ras Al Khaimah. You have the floor. You will be followed by Botswana. Botswana, be ready.
فخامة Cyril Ramaphosa,
Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa. Your Excellencies, Presidents and Prime Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, greetings. I would like in the beginning to thank His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa for the successful organization and the hospitality that we have received from the people of South Africa. We appreciate the position of the BRICS members to include the UAE into this group. In the recent years, the UAE has continued its search to obtain membership in international organizations while committed to enhancing dialogue and international economy, and our approach is to follow cooperation in order to find solutions to the problems facing our world, such as climate change, poverty, and healthcare, education for the most vulnerable segments of our society. Many loopholes, economic loopholes or developmental loopholes in other areas, and we would like to take the opportunity to communicate with other countries and peoples within this group and outside the group in order to achieve prosperity at large space that includes all the people of this world. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the BRICS community, which represents a quarter of the world economy and home to half the population of the world, is prepared to play a pivotal role in shaping international agenda and setting the international agenda in the coming years. In this regard, I see that it is most important to emphasize that United Arab Emirates is considered one of the most of commercial partners, investment partners to the members of the BRICS group. As the non-oil trade has reached $750 billion and investment $38 billion between the year 2018 and 2023. It is worth mentioning that the United Arab Emirates is the second country that is not founder to join the new development bank in 2020. This emphasizes our understanding, a very early understanding of the role that BRICS can play in enhancing international development and economic growth for all. On the other hand, the United Arab Emirates has shown a strong commitment to political participation and close diplomatic participation with the BRIC countries, and in a wider area, using an open approach to international affairs, whether the framework of partners with regard COP28, which was going to be held in Dubai in November, or other forums of multi-parties. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the meeting of today in Africa indicates our joint objective, which aims to build something more than multilateralism. The United Arab Emirates is keen to benefit from international forums, including BRICS, to establish new partnerships and to support development agenda in the global south, in the sense that it is a trade partner and investor in the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reiterate that the United Arab Emirates, being a country that lies in the crossroads of trade routes, is very keen to enhance peace and stability, prosperity in the Middle East, and aspires to enhance partnerships, wider partnerships with BRICS today and tomorrow. I am very happy with regard to our discussions today, and I would like once again to reiterate my appreciation of having invited me to participate in this platform. Thank you very much. Shukran.
Slamba Tsohwane, Vice President of the Republic of Botswana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, allow me to recognize His Excellency Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa and Chair of BRICS, his deputy. Allow me, equally important, to observe that the BRICS leaders have already been recognized. Allow me to deem protocol as observed. Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank the BRICS Summit host, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa of the Republic of South Africa, to have invited His Excellency Dr. Mokgweetsi Eric Masisi, the President of the Republic of Botswana, to participate in BRICS-Africa outreach and BRICS Plus dialogues under the theme BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development and Inclusive Multilateralism. Unfortunately, due to other pressing commitments, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Botswana, who would have loved to be here, is unable to be here today. His Excellency has delegated me to represent him. Today's theme is apt because it acknowledges and recognizes the important role the BRICS plays in promoting strategic partnerships that spur accelerated growth and sustainable development. and inclusive multilateralism, particularly for developing regions such as Africa. Excellencies, it is worrisome that economic growth on the African continent remains sluggish, dragged down by a series of severe and mutually reinforcing shocks, including COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, surging inflation, and low investment growth, food and energy crisis, to mention but a few. Excellencies, despite being hit by a confluence of shocks, African economies remain resilient. However, there is need to accelerate growth by, among others, scaling up energy investments. 2, increasing the employability of workers as well as the productivity of enterprises through skills development. 3, enhancing digital cooperation and developing dynamic innovation ecosystems. 4, partnering with countries of Global South in creating mechanisms for intellectual property protection and commercialization. 5, strengthening participation in manufacturing global value chains through increasing value-added exports and promoting innovation. And 6, lastly, broadening and diversifying financial products. Mr. Chairman, recognizing that BRICS economies represent a significant share of both global trade and world GDP, there is an opportunity to enhance economic cooperation and open new opportunities, boost economic exports and attract foreign investment to the African continent. Excellencies, the Sustainable Development Goals report of 2023 illustrates that halfway to the deadline of 2030 agenda, we are leaving more than half of the world behind, casting doubt of the likelihood of realizing sustainable development goals. On that note, Mr. Chairman, I must recognize milestones by different countries. They demonstrate pockets of successes. In that note, Mr. Speaker, in the context of the health target of the Global Sustainable Development Goal, Botswana has achieved a milestone under what is regarded as 95-95-95. We are able, or we have been able to achieve 95-98-98. This is what raises hope, Mr. Chairman. Within the African Union, we are gearing up into second 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063, whose goals and targets have a 70% inherent interconnections with those of Agenda 2030. Excellencies, about half of the Agenda 2030 targets are off track. Then inevitably, Africa's Agenda 2063 is also in peril. Like Agenda 2063, Mr. Chairman, there exists an SDG financing gap that is exacerbated by climate change and conflict on the African continent. Clearly, reforms of the global finance system and more targeted financing solutions are needed to get back on track to meet the global goals. The BRICS New Development Bank stands to make a meaningful impact in providing valuable resources to help fill the massive gap in investment and infrastructure and sustainable development in developing countries. Excellencies, Botswana remains committed to a more equitable, inclusive, and effective international order. We are of the conviction that Africa ought to have an enhanced presence and voice at the table of global diplomacy. For us, this is a legitimate demand, as Africa is increasingly being recognized as a new center of power, as others already stated today. Today's dialogues are a perfect platform to continue efforts towards a more representative, fairer and balanced international order. Excellencies, we note with keen interest the BRICS leaders' ongoing discussions on BRICS expansion, underscoring the growing significance of this bloc. We view the BRICS family as an important trade and development partners, sources of foreign direct investment, and champions of the interests of the global South. On trade, we are also following the BRICS leaders' discussions on the possibility to use local currencies in trading. Under the African Continental Free Trade Area, a Pan-African payment and settlement system has been launched in 2022 that enables the efficient flow of money across African borders, bringing about financial integration. We believe that this payment system will shape the ebb and flow of not only intra-Africa trade, but also trade with countries of the Global South and the rest of the world. As previous speakers have clearly stated, partnerships in a bedrock of the BRICS since its founding. In this respect, I commend the BRICS country to promoting inclusivity and engagement with our beloved continent of Africa through the BRICS-Africa Outreach and BRICS Plus dialogue. Before I conclude, Mr. Chairman, I would like, Mr. Chairman, because of other pressing commitments, to seek leave immediately as I have concluded. I thank you very much for your attention and your endurance for a long day. Thank you very much.